several different schools. We'll all provide iPads to one of our classes of students, and we won't provide iPads to the other class of students. Then, at the end of the year, all the 5th grade teachers will get together and we'll share our grades, and then we'll be able to compare all the grades from the 5 schools of students that used iPads and those that didn't. So, do we have human subjects? Yes? Okay, so same as the last one. What about, do you think this is research? Yes? Alright, I agree. Why?
It's the same, like it's both asking a question and there's a plan, but like in this example, it's also generalizable because you're pulling samples from different areas and you're using a control variable and testing it.
Yeah, I think that's a great explanation. So, in this scenario, you could definitely argue that the results are going to be generalizable because you have different populations of students from multiple schools. And really, this study seems to be designed to contribute to generalizable knowledge because at the very beginning of the study, we're asking if it improves students' grades in general, and we're working with teachers from multiple schools to try to make it generalizable. Alright, so here's another one. I want to know what my students think about my teaching, my class, an assignment I gave them. I'll give them a survey at the end of the year to get their feedback. I'm going to use the results to improve the class I teach next year. Do we have human subjects? Yes? Is it research? No? Okay, I agree. So, in this case, I describe it a little bit, well, I describe it as an evaluation. So, the teacher does something, they're having the students evaluate it so that they can then improve it next year. And again, it's just particular to this course or this teacher. Okay. Let's see. Okay, here we go. I want to help other teachers by posting informative links and information on a website I create. I want to know if teachers think my website is helpful, so I'm going to ask them to take a survey about my site. Do we have human subjects? Yes. We have the teachers, and we're collecting information about what they think about the website. Is it research? I see confused looks. So, we do have a question. We have a plan to gain information. Do you think this is designed to be generalizable, or is it more like an evaluation of the website? Yeah, evaluation of the website. So the results are only going to be used to improve that website for teachers to use. Okay, here's another one. I found an activity in my classroom that helped my students, and I wonder if it could help other students. I told another teacher about the activity, and she's willing to try it in her class. After she tries it, then we're going to compare our results. So, do we have human subjects? Yes. We have the students, and I would assume we're comparing their grades. Is it research? So we have a question. We're wondering if an activity is effective. Our plan is that we tried it in one class. It seemed to work, so now we're going to try it in another class and see if it helps the students. Do you think it could be generalizable? So in general, I would advise someone to submit to the HSRB, because I think that originally when the first teacher did the activity, he or she just did it as part of the normal teaching practices. It wasn't really planned out, just trying an activity. It seemed to be really effective. So now we want to test if it's effective with other groups of students. So we're kind of testing if it is going to be generalizable. All right, I think I've got two more. I'm a teacher and I'm really interested in student-parent relationships. I have access to students in my class, so I want to survey them to find out what kind of issues they face at home. So, if the teacher did this study, would there be human subjects? Yeah, we have students, and we would have their survey data. Is it research? We have I'm sure the survey would be designed to answer some sort of a question. And is it generalizable? I think we might need a little bit more information. I think this one could be argued either way with the way it's presented. It doesn't really seem like this is action research. You know, it's a question or an interest that somebody had on their own. So it might be designed to contribute to generalizable knowledge. What about the school library is thinking about ordering some new books? They'd like some ideas on what to order. So myself being a teacher, I'll survey students about what kind of books they like to read, and then I'll tell the library. Do we have human subjects? Yes? Do you think it's research? No? I agree. So the purpose of the survey is just to inform the library about what type of books they might want to buy. So sometimes it can be really hard to determine if you need HSRB approval. So the HSRB created a form that's called a review determination form. It's real short. It just asks you a couple questions trying to figure out if you're working with human subjects and if it's research. If you do fill out the form, don't worry too much about getting those yes/no questions right. What's the most important is just providing a good description of your project. And then my office can give you a formal determination as to if it's not research with human subjects or if it is. And if the HSRB tells you it's not research with human subjects, it doesn't mean your project isn't important. It just means that it doesn't meet those federal definitions. And if it is research with human subjects, there's a whole lot of things you have to do. There's a form to fill out. You have to provide the recruiting materials you think you're going to use. If you're working with students, probably parent permission forms, student assent forms, your data collection tool. So if you can work with your advisor to make it, you know, a true action research project that doesn't require HSRB approval, that would probably be to your benefit. And then if you need any information about the HSRB, they do have a website and there are directions and forms online and FAQs, and the Office of Research Compliance is just myself and my assistant. So, you know, feel free to stop by or call us or email us. We definitely want to help you if you need it. So that's where I will end. If anybody has any questions.
So a couple things I want to pick up on. A related question to the scenarios that you've been presented here. Last year when I presented at the NCTM conference in, what was last year?
Denver?
Denver. There was a woman there who teaches an honors 8th grade math class, somewhat similar to what I do. She teaches in the Chicago area. We ended up talking for a long time, ended up Skyping this summer, and we kind of came up with some ideas because there's some things she does with her classes that are similar to what I do with mine, and we've been talking about collaborating on a project. Because the research question that we have is kind of related to, if I do this with my class here in Ohio, and you do a similar project with your class in Chicago, can we say together that this appears to be a really effective idea? It doesn't matter who the audience is, in two different places doing similar activities with two different teachers are getting similar results, and we can then go out and tell other people about this because it worked in both of our settings. In that situation, is that meeting the definition of research? Yeah, why?
Just the whole point is to say, if it works here, it can work there.
Yeah, very good. That's right, it can work anywhere, it's generalizable, right? And so that's a big part of this. I want to make sure, and you said it, I want to amplify this, that if your project, for the most part, our actual research projects are not falling under this kind of federal definition of research. They are considered research, but they're not considered under the definition of research you're presenting here. Because sometimes it can get confusing. You can look at it and say, well, if my project doesn't qualify for having to have human subjects review board approval, then it's not really research. Well, it is. It's action research. You're doing it in your classes. That is a form of research. It just isn't fitting the federal definition of what it takes for research to require that kind of approval. You know, I told you about when I did my dissertation. We've talked about that before. Remember, I surveyed kids all over the state of Ohio, and I collected all kinds of survey data. And then I went out and visited schools, and I observed schools, and I went through files, and I tried to draw conclusions about what these students look like. Very much generalizable kind of stuff. I had to have human subjects approval from the get-go to talk to every student, parent, teacher, and so forth that I interacted with in that study. In a similar way, she mentioned this kind of 12-month period. I have kind of an ongoing human subjects approval for my 8th grade class because I like to try things out with my students and be able to say, hey, this is an interesting mathematical thinking that came out when I tried that. I can write about that, I can present about that, I can put it into books, articles, whatever, but I need to have my students' approval to do that. So at the beginning of every year, during August, I resubmit to get approval for another year for that project. And as I teach my students, they know at the beginning of the year, the students and their parents both sign off saying that as the year goes on, anything that they write, if they write something in a journal entry, I videotape them, I audio tape them, they do something on a test, anything is fair game for me to use in my research to be able to publish and write about and present about it in presentations. But every year I go through this. I've got file cabinets of signed letters from parents and their students, my students, from years back, approving me being able to do that. Okay, so one of the things, if you remember at the very beginning of the semester when we talked about design of an action research project, and I kind of discouraged you from doing too much experimental type of research, where you say, I'm going to try this with 2 classes and try that with 2 other classes and see if what we're doing makes a difference, or working with another school or another teacher. Because if you do that, you're really getting into now that federal definition of research and that whole layer of going through and getting the approval and every question you're going to ask in an interview, every survey that you're going to give them and so forth, all of that's got to be approved. And so it's a whole another layer of things that you need to do. Not that it's bad or wrong to do that, it's just that most of our projects don't fall into that category. So we wanted you to be able to see today sort of the difference between what requires approval and what doesn't. So same thing, do you guys have questions? This is your opportunity.
Yes?
Dr. Arms, I have a question, and this is an impression I'm getting. So some of the action research projects that I've seen and worked with, and what I'm getting an impression from you is that much of projects that are evaluative about one's own practices. So if I'm interested in, for instance, whether I give students options to take a variety of tests and they choose one of them, and I'm just interested in, well, why'd you choose which one? Really, as for my own intents and purposes as the teacher, to say, I wonder what I might do next year. So could you speak a little bit more about this evaluation part and how I'm helping people make determinations about research?